Hello friends, let us discuss again about the swing components in Java. The next components is JCheckbox. The Java checkbox, which is used to create a checkbox, and it is used to turn an option on, that is true, or off, that is false. Clicking on a checkbox changes its state from on to off or from off to on. So this will inherit JToggleButton class. The JCheckbox class declaration is as for the Java X swing.JCheckbox class. The declaration syntax is a public, which is highlighted. The public class JCheckbox extends JToggleButton implements accessible. So this is the exactly the particular syntax of JCheckbox. The number of constructors which we can use in JCheckbox are as follows. In the table itself, the first constructor is JCheckbox. This will create an initially unselected checkbox button with no text or no icon. The second is JCheckbox string S. This will create initially unselected checkbox with text. The string S in this constructor is a parameter. Next constructor is a JCheckbox in parameters, that is string text and boolean selected. Those two are the parameters. This will create a checkbox with text and specifies whether or not it is initially selected. So this may checkbox contains the particularly we can use the checkbox which is not initially selected, but we can select directly with the our button. The next constructor is a JCheckbox action. A is a argument, and that will be create a checkbox where properties are taken from the action supplied. The action which we can take, that is checkbox, is selected or deselected. So that action will be replied with the constructor. There are number of methods, that is two number of methods which are used with the Java checkbox. These methods are accessible context, get accessible contexts. So this will use to get accessible context which is associated with the JCheckbox. So another method is protected string param string. So this will return a string representation of this checkbox. Only two of these methods we can use for JCheckbox. This is the example of JCheckbox, and it may contains the checkboxes which is shown at the right hand side, the output of our program. The program itself initially imported Java X Swing dot star that will contain all the number of classes in the swing. The next is a public class checkbox example, and that class is having declared. The class is written, and in this class the Java frame, that is F, which is object, and that is initialized with the Java frame, that is J frame checkbox example, which is shown in the double quotation, and that will be displayed on the frame. Particularly at the outset, at the output, you can see on the upper side whether the checkbox example is displayed, and that is actually a Java frame. Now the Java checkbox is again created here with these two different checkboxes, that is checkbox number 1 and checkbox number 2. That is checkbox 1 has been created, that is J checkbox. Checkbox 1 is a particularly the object, and new checkbox is containing the text, that is the C++, which we can get selected from the user end. The next, that whether the checkbox 1 where we can use and where we can display this checkbox, that will be given in the coordinates, that is 100, 100 and 50, 50, which are the set bounds of this checkbox. Now the checkbox second is again declared here, which is having the value in the Java checkbox in double quotation Java, and which we can use at a true in the sense that it will be get selected, or our focus will be on the that Java text. Now this is also displayed on the output, where we can see this output below the C++, and its bounds are given in the coordinates, that is 100, 150, 50, 50 are the column values, and 100 and 150 is a new value of row. Now this all will be get added on the checkbox 1, and checkbox 2 will be added on the form with the f.add checkbox 1 and f.add with the checkbox 2. So those are having these two checkboxes will having the size which is given in the frame, that is 400, 400 will be the size of our Java frame, and it will having the same layout which is null, and that will be get visible, which is also the true. And this is a particularly the class which we have called in the main function, that is written at the lower end, and it is particularly called, that is new checkbox example in bracket complete and semicolon, that will introduce and that will be implemented by using and by calling that particularly class checkbox example. So that is the example of Java checkbox. Our next Java component is a Java JRadio button. The JRadio button class, which is used to create a particularly radio button, and this will be used to choose one option from the multiple options. So there may have the multiple options, and we can select only one of out of that all multiple options. So this will be widely used in the exams or quizzes, etc. It should be added in a button group to select one radio button only. So how it will be get declared? The declaration or syntax which is given in the highlighted, that is public class JRadio button extends JToggle button implements accessible. So all the constructors are given here with the JRadio button. First constructor, it will create the unselected radio button with no text. So this will create the unselected radio button. We are not clicking on that particular radio button. Now the next constructor is JRadio button, which is having the parameter string s, and that will give the description. It will create the unselected radio button with the specified text. The next constructor is a JRadio button having the parameters string s and boolean selected. Now this creates a radio button with the specified text and selected status. Now there may have two different statuses, which is no selected and selected status of our radio button. Now this Java radio button, which is different than Java checkbox, and that the checkbox may contain the multiple options we can take, but in the radio button we can have only one option, only one radio button you can take or you can select from the multiple options. That is the main difference between these two different components. Now, what are the methods of radio button? That is, the first method is void set text string s, that will be used to specify text on the button. Now, the next method is a string get text, that will be used to return the text of the button. So that will be given by the user the text. Then next, set enabled, that will be used to enable or disable the button. So you can use these particularly methods which can be used for the enable and disable the our radio button. So you can disable also the button. Now the button has three states, maybe selected, unselected and disabled. So disable also we can use a method. Next method is void set icon, that is icon B. It will be used to set specified icon on the button. You can use the icon on your specified radio button, and that will be clearly give idea to the user that what icon will give the meaning of that icon. Now the method next is icon get icon. This will be used to get icon of the button. So you can use button also, as well as on that button you can use the icon. The next method is a void set mnemonic, that will be used to set mnemonic on the button. And the last method is add action listener, that will be action listener A is the parameter, and that will be used to action listener to this object. So those are number of methods, but in these methods some methods are used, that is first and second method, that is set text and get text. Those two methods are widely used in the radio button component. Now, what is the example of this radio button example? We can just see the left side, the radio button example, and that will show at the right hand side the radio button which is displayed on the frame. Now, the frame, as particularly in our last example, the checkboxes we have get on the our example, but here we are using the radio buttons. Now the same particularly class is declared with the radio button example, and the Java frame that will be get displayed on the screen. F is equal to new Java frame. Now there are two radio buttons, that is Java radio button R1 and Java radio button R2. R1 and R2 are the two objects which will declare the new Java radio button having the value in double quotation, that is male, and for the R2 that is the female. Now these two radio buttons are displayed on our form, and it will have the different coordinates, and those coordinates are specified on the program, which is having 75, 50, 100, 30, and another button is displayed on the 75, 100. So there is a difference between 50 and 100. So second argument in this set bounds is different, and the same next locations are the same one. Now button group BG is equal to new button group is declared here, where the button group, these two radio buttons are the group of these two, only one we can select. So bg add r1 and bg dot add r2, that will be the method which is used to add these two buttons on our form, and this particularly will be set to the new Java frame, and the size of that Java frame is 300 by 300, and this Java frame is set visible. Now this all a class will be called in the our main program, that is new radio button example. So that is the example, our Java radio button. Thank you very much. Stay home, stay healthy, stay fit. Thank you.